Wiecie, że lubimy tu gadać o Souls-like'ach, więc sobie pogadamy troszeczkę jeszcze. 10 rzeczy usuniętych z Dark Souls. Są tu pewnie rzeczy, które znamy, ale może są też rzeczy kompletnie nowe. Jakieś smaczki, jakieś ciekawostki. Dowiedzmy się. Ale, kolego! Sponsorem dzisiejszego materiału jest Instant Gaming, więc zostań na chwilę i posłuchaj, bo możesz zaoszczędzić. Jest to strona, na której możesz kupić gry dużo taniej niż normalnie na Steamie i innych platformach. Spójrzcie tylko na to, Wuchang Fallen Feathers 32% taniej, a przed chwilą wyszedł. Nasza polska duma narodowa Wiedźmin 3 za 45 zł, moi drodzy, może chcecie sobie przed czwórką ograć to arcydzieło dla niektórych. Zapraszam serdecznie. Fenomenalny Darkest Dungeon przeceniony o 91%, prawie jak za darmo, niecałe 9 zł. No i nie byłbym sobą, gdybym nie polecił Elden Ringa. Jedyne 135 zł, 47% taniej. Za taką grę mega steal. Gier oczywiście znajdziecie znacznie więcej, nie tylko na PC, ale również na konsole Xbox, Nintendo, PlayStation. Możecie też karty podarunkowe z Playaka sobie tu kupować, także też fajnie to wszystko wychodzi. Polecam, zapraszam, link macie w opisie. Jak korzystacie z mojego linka, to dostaję mały procent od zakupu, więc wy macie grę taniej, Instant się cieszę, że ich wybraliście, a ja mam mikrodonate'a, także każdy jest zadowolony, triple win, czemu by nie skorzystać. Oszczędzajcie, wykrzyknik Instant na czacie na Twitchu lub link w opisie na YouTubie i lecimy do materiału, co? Nie będę już przedłużał.
The undead King Jariel was originally a boss in Dark Souls 1. He wore similar armor to the Four Kings, and it makes sense considering he was supposed to be the
A to
boss before
znamy
the Four Kings.
akurat.
You would have found him in the New
To
Londo
ostatnio chyba w filmie Damiana Ptaka była akurat. Tu normalnie boss planowany, który nie został włożony do gierki, jest gdzieś w plikach gry, ludzie go często odkupują, dają do jakichś modów, ale to było tak naprawdę właśnie preludium do stworzenia Four Kingsów. I Four Kingsy faktycznie są dość legendarnym bossem, nie? Jakby nie patrzeć, więc dobrze wyszło.
ruins, potentially on top of the roof where you find Ingward. We know this because some of Ingward's removed lines talked about conquering his trial to receive the key to the seal.
Do you see the great hall that stands before you? Atop it, you will find a dark wraith.
Dark
the servant
Wraith.
of the Four Kings.
Oho.
Show me that you can defeat it. As guardian of the seal, it behoves me to test your strength. For if you cannot defeat the dark wraith, you will be no match
To o nim
for
tak
the
naprawdę,
Four
kurde,
Kings.
zobacz.
And he refers to a dark wraith, which King Jariel would have been. He had a similar moveset to Old King Alon from Demon Souls, even having the same move where he would steal your souls. Believe it or not, you
Porąbane.
can actually fight him by changing some files around, though the boss itself is unfinished. And it would have been super interesting to fight a boss on the roof of the second ghost house, considering the area is so small. Seeing that this boss was removed from the game, it made me think, what else was removed from Dark Souls 1? Like, why don't the Four Kings have a boss weapon or armor? But apparently their sword was originally supposed to be obtainable in the game. I don't know for sure how you
O,
were
to byłby fajny mieczyk, kurde, zrobić sobie rana pod miecz Four Kingsów. Oj, stary. Jeszcze jakiś Ash of War dodać do tego z tym obrotem słynnym.
supposed to obtain this piece of a weapon, but it's pretty safe to assume you would obtain it through the Four Kings boss soul. If I had to guess, it was probably removed due to the Four Kings dropping a Lord soul to use in the Lord vessel, meaning if you did obtain the weapon from their boss soul, you would decide between the weapon or finishing the game. You can actually use this weapon
Kurde, to mogli po prostu zrobić tak, że dostajesz Lord Soula i tak jak zrobisz broń. Przecież to nie problem. Dziwne.
game, but since it has no stats, you have to use it like a skin for another weapon that already exists, meaning we'll never know what the animations were supposed to look like for such a crazy looking sword. Oscar of Astora is quite possibly the most important NPC in Dark Souls history. Unfortunately, he meets his end in the Undead Asylum, but originally, did you know he was supposed to play a much bigger role in the game? We potentially would have encountered him in Darkroot Garden and in Orlando,
Co ty
where he could
gadasz?
have helped us out. He was even supposed to make it towards the end of the game, siding with whichever serpent you didn't choose. This potentially could have set him up to be another boss right before the end of the game, similar to how Gideon Offner in Elden Ring is, but with Oscar being your direct rival. This
Kto wie, czy Gideon tak naprawdę nie jest realizacją tych niespełnionych planów Miyazakiego, nie? Bardzo często się tak dzieje. Ludzie nawet do dzisiaj spekulują, że Malenia jest po prostu niewrzuconym do Sekiro bossem, bo bardzo tam pasuje.
without a doubt would have given us a much more in-depth look into one of the most beloved NPCs, and it's almost a shame that this was cut from the final version of the game. It's no secret the Bed of Chaos is the worst boss fight in Dark Souls
Miało
1,
być coś
and
zamiast
probably
tego,
in
nie?
every FromSoft game, but this fight originally wasn't supposed to be terrible. The original model for the Bed of Chaos actually had wings on it and had animations that made it look like it was supposed to move around the arena. The colors on the boss were also dark and muddy, which means the Bed of Chaos could have potentially been a fight that took place in water with it coming out of it. Keeping it
Ja rozumiem generalnie to, że bossy mają być różnorodne, że czasami mamy bić się z czymś dużym, wolnym, z szybkim, małym, ale overall gracze raczej preferują bossy humanoidalne, bo dużo po prostu fajniej się z nimi tańczy, dużo lepiej się je czyta, jest to bardziej sprawiedliwy vibe walki. Ja na przykład za Bed of Chaos dużo bardziej wolałbym zobaczyć jakiegoś po prostu rycerza, nie? Który broni tego, czy coś w stylu nawet na Szandry, kurde, z Dark Souls 2. Już by było lepiej.
it unique, but more like a traditional boss fight. And it makes you wonder, why would they ever change the boss to what it is today?
Znaczy, jaki jest powód, to ja odpowiem. Powód jest taki, że ta cała gra została zraszowana, to chyba każdy wie, ale powiem. Druga połowa Dark Souls była robiona na szybko, tam było chyba i z pieniędzmi ciężko, i z deadline'em ciężko, więc zostało to przyraszowane i widać, że druga połowa gry jest dużo mniej jakościowa od pierwszej. Gdyby Dark Souls 1 kończyły się ogląda na zabiciu ONS-a, to ta gra by była 10 na 10, ale nie jest przez to, co jest później.
Why would they ever change the boss to what it is today? Shiva of the East holds one of the best weapons in Dark Souls 1, and will sell you unique weapons if you join the Forest Hunters Covenant. Even though he seems like a friendly guy, some NPCs will tell you not to trust Shiva. This is due to a cut questline where Shiva was searching for the Chaos Blade. If you brought the Chaos Blade to him, Shiva would then kill you. And to get the sword back, you would have to go to the Painted World of Ariamis and use the Black Eye Orb you get after being killed by Shiva. Exactly like the one you used to invade Logic's world after he kills the Firekeeper in Firelink Shrine. And believe it or not, you can actually still do this in the base game through a very difficult glitch. Now I'm gonna be honest, I couldn't pull this off for the life of me. So the footage you're gonna be seeing on screen is actually from a YouTuber named Splee5556, and I encourage you to go check out his full video and give him some support. So using the Black Eye Orb you get from Logic's questline, go to the Painted World of Ariamis and clear out all the phalanx in the main courtyard of the area. This is the only place you can invade Shiva at, and it's where you will have to perform the glitch. Go up to the roof and stand on the corner of the ledge and jump down onto these 3 crates on the ground. Then you'll need to roll onto the isolated crate, and this is where you'll need to perform an item swap, which lets you use an item you normally can't use. You pull this glitch off by using an item you can't use, doing a weapon toggle, and canceling the weapon toggle by falling off a ledge. And as you're falling, swap to an item you can use and use it on the frame you touch the ground. This will activate the original item you use, but with the animation of the normal item. However, since he's...
Znaczy, ja ogólnie uważam, że z tym cut contentem jest tak, że bardzo często on jest giga jakościowy i ludzie sobie się zastanawiają, przecież to nawet by więcej sensu miało, gdyby te rzeczy były w grze. Dużo lepiej, dużo spójniej niektóre questliny by się zachowywały, ale ja mam wrażenie, że to jest trochę tak z Miyazakim, że on ma tą swoją wizję, on tworzy jakiś pełny obraz, ma płótno i potem po prostu wycina z niego kawałki, żebyśmy mieli co zgadywać. Dosłownie tak to wygląda.
These crates are too tall and cause you to do a landing animation. There is a special way you have to perform this glitch using multiple frame perfect inputs. Do the item swap like normal, but the moment you land, you have to roll cancel the landing animation. In the very next frame, pop an item you can use normally to execute this glitch. This will let you invade Shiva, and after you defeat him, he will drop a souvenir of reprisal, and you will get a message saying, "The guilty paid the price, returning with a souvenir of reprisal." It's kind of a shame he doesn't drop the Chaos Blade, but it is cool that you're still able to access his content without having to use a debug menu or cheats. You can actually use this invasion as a farming spot for souvenirs or reprisal, since you can invade Shiva an infinite amount of times, but it's probably not worth hitting 2 frame perfect inputs dozens of times. One last
W Elden Ringu na przykład jest masa questline'ów, jeszcze tak nawiążę do tego, co przed chwilą mówiłem. Jest ogromna ilość questline'ów, które byłyby naprawdę super, albo które mogły się inaczej potoczyć, a ostatecznie zostały okrojone, skończone szybciej. Dawałyby znacznie więcej sensu i loru temu światu, a nie mamy ich. Miyazaki stwierdził na sam koniec, nie, jednak nie. Kurde, dziwna rzecz, ale tak jest.
interesting thing about this questline is that it's almost a direct copy of Sasuke's questline from Demon Souls, where he also wants you to...
Kale, o Jezu, Kale miał mieć fenomenalny questline z merchantami, który by nas prowadził aż do tego ostatniego, 3. zakończenia. W sensie do tego Frenzied Flame'a. Gdyby tak było, to wydaje mi się, że Miyazaki uznał, że to ma być dużo bardziej sekretne, dużo bardziej tajne i nikąd musimy tak naprawdę wskoczyć, kurde, za mogiem i się przekonać, że to tam jest, bo tak to ni cholery byśmy się nie dowiedzieli. A tak to ten quest faktycznie by nam trochę podpowiadał, nie?
thing about this questline is that it's almost a direct copy of Sasuke's questline from Demon Souls, where he also wants you to bring him a life-sapping katana, and then after you give it to him, he immediately betrays you. There are a ton of enemies in Dark Souls 1, but there were even more removed from the final release of the game. There was a blue version of the Hellkite Drake, which had a separate mesh for its tail, meaning that we could have had a different color of the Drake sword or a different weapon entirely. You can also find the Drake's head mounted on the wall inside of Orlando. The original Crystal Lizard from Demon Souls was also removed from the game, though the model was most likely used as a placeholder until the new one was made. There were also these claw hollow enemies, which are thought to be in a transitional period of becoming a crack spider, but this was never confirmed. You can also see the same enemy in concept art for Dark Souls 2, and these enemies potentially could have been used as fake bonfires to lure players into a false sense of security. Would you believe me if I told you Andre of Astora was originally meant to be more than just a blacksmith? He was originally planned to be related to Gwyn by blood, which would have given him a reason in the lore for his original purpose of guarding the hidden passage straight to the Firelink chamber behind the goddess statue in Firelink Shrine. This can be seen in old concept
W
art.
sumie oni nawet wyglądowo troszeczkę są podobni.
Dark Souls 1 before he was delegated to being just a normal blacksmith, which is definitely a fall from grace and honestly probably wasn't even needed given how many blacksmiths are in Dark Souls 1. And sure, Andre still has a ton of purpose in the final release of the game, being by far the best blacksmith and selling you the Crest of Artorias as well, so you have a shortcut through the Darkroot Garden. But it would have been nice if everyone's favorite blacksmith got the role he was originally going to have. Speaking of blacksmiths, many NPCs had different designs than they ended up with, including Blacksmith Vamos. He doesn't wear anything in the release version of Dark Souls 1, but originally originally he was not only wearing his royal helm, but he was also
Dziwnie
equipped with
wyglądał
a
w tej
spider shield,
armorze.
a pickaxe, and a great axe on top of his hammer, which made him look a lot less creepy, unlike the original design for Marvelous Chester. He looks like he's straight out of a creepypasta and originally wielded a black Zweihander.
A z tym gościem to w ogóle jest ciekawie, bo ludzie właśnie tak lubią obstawiać, że w każdej grze Miyazakiego jest jakaś postać, jakiś element mówiący ci o następnej grze. I to niby jest element związany stricte z Bloodborne'em, nie? Że to się łączy wszystko. Że to są jakieś takie przebąkiwania Miyazakiego odnośnie przyszłości. I teraz ludzie co do Eldena na przykład spekulują, że Dane będzie symbolem następnej gry, która będzie opierać się na hand-to-hand kombacie, ale trochę mi się nie chce w to wierzyć.
For Marvelous Chester.
Miyazaki
He looks like he's
bijatykę
straight out of a
zrobi.
creepypasta and originally wielded a black Zweihander. You can actually see this model in game by using a debug menu and replacing a boss, though most of the sound effects aren't there and his animations are still a little janky. You can actually find his black Zweihander in Dark Souls 1 without using any cheats, as it's one of the many blades in the ground around Artorias' grave in Darkroot Garden. And the final NPC design was actually a younger version of the witch Beatrice. You can bring her into the game using cheats, but there's no real way we can know where she was supposed to be implemented. There were also 3 rings that were cut from Dark Souls 1. The Ring of Displacement, the Ring of Blind Ghosts, and the Ring of Condemnation. The coolest of the 3 was easily the Ring of Displacement, as it was supposed to be a ring that took damage for you, with a chance of breaking. This without a doubt would have been a must-use ring and would have definitely been broken if it was left in the game. The Ring of Blind Ghosts also has a connection to New Londo, as all the ring did was make it to where ghosts couldn't see you, but it does include some cool lore
Fajny
about how they were
pierścień.
originally
To by było mega, gdyby nie trzeba było po prostu mieć klątwy lub używać klątwy, tylko byłby item, który mogłeś znaleźć, który pozwalałby ci seamlessowo się przemieszczać po tej lokacji. Nawet jakby był trudny do zdobycia, to fajnie by było mieć taki permanentny przedmiot.
2 of them simply left. It's pretty safe to assume before the removal of King Jariel that Ingrid would have been wearing this ring, especially since he wouldn't have been on the roof, and most likely by the shortcut ladder in New Londo instead, meaning he would have gotten some use out of the ring. The final of these 3 rings is the Ring of Condemnation, and it was rewarded to those who entered a covenant with Velka, the goddess of sin, who isn't in the game, but isn't a mystery either, as there is a ton of known lore surrounding her. The ring itself would counterattack for you if you took sustained damage, which would have been great for PvP, and potentially hits that Velka's covenant would have been revolved around PvP before Koth was given the PvP covenant in the final release of the game. Finally, there are a couple other items that were removed from the game, such as weapons, armors, and a miracle, along with the Four Kings sword, a whip, and a talisman were originally in the game, with the whip potentially being a cat of 9 tails, which almost certainly would have inflicted bleed. The talisman is also completely unknown, but it's possible it was supposed to be Guinevere's talisman, as there is text in the files of the game with that name, though there's no image or description listed with it. There were also a couple armor sets removed, one of which being King Jariel's armor, which
Mega
obviously
dobrze
was removed
wygląda.
because he was removed, a bear armor set, which honestly looks pretty cool, and I don't
Ty, ale to wygląda...
Jariel's armor, which
Poczekaj.
obviously was removed because he was removed, a bear
Bardzo podobnie to wygląda do Beast Clawsów, które się pojawiły w eldeńskim DLC na przykład.
armor set, which honestly looks pretty cool, and I don't see a reason why this will be removed from the final version. 2 other armor sets are still in the game, but there isn't a legitimate way to obtain them, being the Elite Cleric set and the Mage Smith set. These honestly look pretty cool, and I'm guessing FromSoft just couldn't find a place to put them. Finally, there's that miracle I was talking about, where it was supposed to be a spell version of the Ring of Sacrifice. It was called Escape Death, and whenever you died, you wouldn't lose your souls or humanity. I think it's pretty obvious why they removed this from the final release.
Za
And there you
dobre.
have it, 10 things that were removed from Dark Souls 1. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like as it helped out the
Fajne.
channel a ton. And be sure to comment down below what game you want to see cut content from next, as I'll cover any and all the Soulsborne games. You just gotta let me know which one. As always, have a great day. Bye bye.
Kurde, dobry materiał. Tak jak mówię, jest masa kurcze rzeczy wyciętych, które miałyby sens, które były naprawdę spoko, były praktycznie skończone lub blisko skończenia, a Miyazaki ostatecznie stwierdził, aj jebać to. Nie wiem, no w Eldenie jest tego jeszcze więcej przez to, że to jest po prostu większa rozmiarowo gra, ale w Dark Soulsach też tego sporo było, cholera. Było. Ciekawe, jakbyśmy te gry odbierali, nie? Gdyby pojawiło się tam dosłownie wszystko, co początkowo planowali, a nie tylko to, co pod koniec wycięli.